So as I said, my name is Dimitri. I'm CEO of MindStudio, and if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn by some chance, I think that most of you are. But if you're not, please connect with me. In fact, let me. Nice. I realize in my state, my typing is going to be even worse than usual. So I just shared my LinkedIn profile, though it looks like I got a picture of Josh here as me as well on this. So entertaining. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just giving you a high level overview of what we're going to be talking about, like what this thing is. And then I'm going to teach you guys to build AI agents. And so my promise to you, and hold me to it, is that by the time you leave here today, even if this is your very first time seeing MindStudio or doing anything with AI, my goal, and I'm really good at this, meaning we've done this a bunch and we see that this works. By the end of this, you're going to leave being able to build extraordinarily powerful AI agents that will transform your own workflow, how you do things every day, and also give you the ability to transform other people's workflows, your teams, your companies, whatever. Okay, and so um, please don't try to follow along with me as I'm building these things. Instead, like sit back and relax. This session is being recorded, so you'll have access to that. There's also lots of materials in our what we call MindStudio University, which are video tutorials and build guides and all that you can then follow that will take you step by step. For now, just like sit back, relax, and we'll get started. Cool. Okay. One last thing. I thank you for sharing your cameras. Not all of you are doing it, but a bunch of you are doing it. That's awesome. Uh, I'm watching this. I've got you on this screen. I've got my stuff on this screen. So if this makes sense, I might say, does this make sense? Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, give me like one of these, whatever you want. You can make faces, try to make me laugh. All of that is cool. But I'm taking this feedback, and so please take advantage of it. Okay, cool. We're getting started. Awesome. Let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna very quickly frame for you again, like what is Mind Studio? What are the problems that you might solve with things like that and all that. Okay, so uh, in a sentence, Mind Studio is a platform for optimizing business processes using AI. Okay, and so we make it easy to learn to build these AI agents, and then very quick and easy to build AI agents without writing any code. You could be the least technical person on the planet, and you could learn to do this. This has nothing to do with being technical. Okay. And why would you build these AI agents? Well, to automate, again, manual knowledge work, to automate the things we do with a computer or our cell phones, engage with information technology. We as knowledge workers, we manually do things. We type, we read, we analyze, we transform, we do that manually. Well, now because of AI models, you can automate a lot of those processes or augment them with automation. So not complete automation, but partial automation. And these turn into superpowers. Like no person can compete with someone who has more automation in this way. Okay. MindStudio is quite popular. There's over 200,000 of these MindStudio AI agents that have been deployed in all kinds of situations. Individuals, solopreneurs, SMBs, enterprises, government. This is the British tax authority, the British IRS, uses MindStudio extensively to automate recruiting functions and other HR functions. ServiceNow uses it to automate configuration of giant systems that help them sell multi-million-dollar deals. New York Times, a bunch of customers, obviously. Okay. And while these companies are not yet enterprise customers, MindStudio AI agents run inside of all of these organizations, brought in by employees that have discovered MindStudio, realize that they can be using it for their own work or for their team's work. Yeah, it's a bunch. MindStudio is venture-backed. We've raised $36 million so far. I used to work at Google. You'll see a bunch of like senior Googlers on here, or Michael Eisner, the former head of Disney. So it's quite an interesting list. This is actually a partial list. There's even more here. Okay, so whatever it is you do, meaning as a solopreneur or your company does, it's got a bunch of sort of processes that you run, right? Business processes. And they're working, right, in some ways. Some are clunky and not overly efficient. Some are extremely optimized. And they're working as they are. If you take a snapshot of them now, that's kind of baseline. But like, duh, it would be awesome if you could make them work better, kind of faster and more autonomously. Okay, like everybody's always trying to optimize, limit their amount of work and optimize their positive yield from their work. Okay, and again, because of this new capability of these generative AI models that's never existed before, we can, this becomes more and more and more of a reality of being able to make your business run dramatically faster and dramatically more autonomously. Okay. The people that know where there are inefficiencies in processes are the people inside the company themselves that are doing that work manually today. They're your marketing people, sales people, ops, finance, all those people. Those are the people that know where they spend their time. And those are the people that are best qualified to sort of automate a lot of those functions, to do the work themselves, to make their workflows much more efficient. And again, before kind of this time of AI, this didn't make any sense. Like, what do you mean the receptionist is going to build their own automation, thing? That doesn't make any sense. We need IT to do it, or we need to get a bunch of consultants to come in and do it. Well, that's not the case anymore. The marketing person can do it, the salesperson can do it, the sales manager can do it, the receptionist can do it. And again, we're seeing this across all kinds of organizations, individuals inside of the organization organically starting to transform their own workflows to be more autonomous, not to change them radically, but just to make them run much faster and better and simpler. Okay, and again, MindStudio is really this comprehensive solution for this. You can learn to build these AI agents yourself. Again, I'm going to teach you before you leave here today, the beginnings of it. There's a lot more to learn, but you will feel like, oh my God, I've got this crazy ability now today to spend the rest of the day automating a bunch of things that I do. You'll get that after the seminar. But obviously, there's a lot more to learn beyond that. Or if you don't want to do this kind of work, you can hire a certified MindStudio developer. By the way, I see some here. Could you raise your hands if you're a certified MindStudio developer so people can see you? Yeah, there you go. Hire any of these people to help you do that. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna skip these. I'm obviously not gonna read this. If you go to LinkedIn, you'll see a bunch of people from a bunch of companies, raving about MindStudio and what it's done for them, and it's a fun list, and it's like a tiny partial thing. There's like hundreds of these. Okay, so the best way to get started is to learn to build these things, right? That's what you're doing now. Right now, you are in this 2-hour live workshop. There's also what we call MindStudio University. You can find it on our website if you just click Learn. Completely free, self-guided tutorials and documentation. You can learn to build, to be a master, not to build. Again, I'm going to teach you to build. You can learn to be a master completely on your own in your spare time and do that. If you invest, depends on who you are, 5, 10, 15 hours, you're going to be a ninja to do that, okay, learning on your own. But if you like, we also teach boot camps. And so you can attend a 2-day boot camp, 30-day boot camp is coming up. If you've got a team and you want your team trained, we do custom team trainings. Okay, and so one last thing here. So we're about to start using this MindStudio Agent Builder. It's kind of what it looks like. We sit in a lot of security, privacy, compliance, sensitive organizations. Again, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs uses us in HR, and so like they're super sensitive, or ServiceNow or whatever. And so if you care about this, you can go to our Trust Center. You can look at all this stuff. All of this leverages AI models. The magic of MindStudio is it's an AI model orchestration platform. And so we allow you to use over 200 models instantly. You don't have to go create your own accounts. We're connected to all these things automatically, and you can just start using them, and many more, obviously. I'm going to skip this, but MindStudio allows you to build all kinds of amazing custom front-end interfaces and outputs and all that. We're not going to get into it here, but I encourage you to look it up later and see. This I do want to spend a moment on because we're going to start using these and building these in less than 1 minute here. MindStudio allows you to deploy your AI agents packaged in different ways. One way is as user-facing applications. What does that mean? You've all used apps on your phone. You've all used things on your computer. All of these are user-facing applications. They're apps. Okay, MindStudio makes it dumb easy to build these things. You don't have to write a line of code, and we'll build at least one of these today. And so that's a popular way to package these. Another way is to have these things deployed as autonomous agents, meaning they are only backends. They have no front end. They're not for humans to use. They run on a schedule and they go off and do stuff. And they might send things to humans or send notifications, send emails, SMSs, whatever. But generally, they're running on their own. Human doesn't have to supervise them. There are also browser extension agents, which are the first agents we're going to build. And these things, again, you'll see are little buttons in your browser. And whenever you want to trigger them, you can just click a button. You can just as easily build AI agents that are email triggered, meaning as soon as you deploy them, they get a custom email address and you can just like CC them on a ginormous thread of stuff that you've been dealing with, that you've long forgotten what's in it. You just CC your agent and it's going to unpack it all for you. It'll tell you if there's anything in it that you have to care about. What are the action items for all the other people on it? What's been agreed to, all that stuff. Like, insane. I used to like just dread opening up some email threads because I was like, I gotta get reload all this information into my brain. Never again. Email it, and that's it. Okay, and a bunch of other ways to do it. Okay, let's get out of here. Oh, one last thing. MindStudio, when people compare us to other companies, 9 out of 10 times we're compared to a company called N8N. And kind of the other 10% were compared to these other companies. And kind of the general consensus is that like N8N is like Linux and MindStudio is like Windows or Mac OS. They're the same thing. If you want to get like really into the weeds and spend a bunch of time configuring things and that's you, N8N is an awesome platform. If you don't care about that, you just want to get stuff done, MindStudio is an awesome platform. You get to choose. By the way, often we get paired with these companies. We have integrations with all of these companies. So some people already have a bunch of Zapier automations running, and they start making things in MindStudio to add to those things. So we're really friendly with everybody. Okay, enough of that. I really hate presentations. I hate watching them. I hate when people give me presentations, and I hate doing them. So I'm glad we're done with that. No more presentations. Now I'm going to do kind of a rapid fire set of demos for you of AI agents, okay? And again, what I'm going to show you here intentionally are not like, that's the agent, like, aha, that's it. It's not like that. It's not kind of like a canonical thing. I'm going to give you a bunch of random examples to show you a bunch of diversity, okay? But there's like countless other applications that you can build. Again, over 200,000 of these things have been deployed already. They're all different, okay? I mean, I'm sure there's like some overlap, but the vast majority are different. And so don't overthink it. Okay, so what is this? This is just a website, and this is a long read. Now, this one's about the movie industry, but the thing I want to show you is like, it's a bunch of dense data in here. And if my job was to understand all this stuff, right? And again, that's what we do as knowledge workers, right? Like we get presented with a bunch of like stuff and we got to understand it and we've got to like extract meaning from it. And we've got to like potentially extract some data that we're going to transform then into something else. And like, this is what we do. We use our time and brain power in order to get all of this into our head and then make sense of it, okay? I don't do that anymore. Now, what does that even mean? Well, because I have an assistant, I have a little helper, right? And so this little thing on the right-hand side, this is an extension. And inside here, I've got a bunch of agents. Now, these agents are my favorite agents. They're pinned. I also have access to hundreds of other agents that are available to me here. Okay. And the agent that I'm going to run is this agent here. So I just click this button. And what this thing does is it grabs everything on this page, sends it to this agent, and this agent is tasked with going through all of this with a fine-tooth comb and pulling everything out and structuring it a bit more. This was kind of verbose and sort of linear, done in its way, you know, from this time to that time. I don't care about that. I care more about, like, these are historical box office trends. This is ticketing price. Okay. And so instead of me doing this, this thing did that for me. And now I can digest this much easily, more easily, and without, you know, the mental tax to do that. By the way, I can then make a copy of it. I can share it. And if I want to, I can continue to sort of like refine it. And so I could say, extract all entities mentioned. And it'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb and extract the people and the companies and the film franchises and all of that that's here. If I asked you to go through this document and like list out all of the entities mentioned, you'd be like, forget that. I'm not going to do that. Well, this thing does it. Okay. So again, one example, extraordinarily powerful, because that's what we do. We consume information, and most information is poorly formatted. It's verbose. Okay. TLDRs are the best. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at another thing. This is a YouTube video.
Following is a
Let me mute this. This is a 2-hour video. This is a conversation with Jeff Bezos. I've run this on 10-hour videos. I'm going to push this exact same button. And this button knows how to find this transcript that's here. And it grabs the transcript and it sends it to the same agent. And remember, this agent is tasked with going through this transcript with a fine-tooth comb and extracting all the things out of it. So instead of watching this video, even at 2 times speed, it would have taken me, you know, an hour and 5 minutes and a lot of mental attention. I can just be hanging out with you and letting this thing waste its time doing that, giving me all of these things, okay? And then again, when it's done, I can ask more questions. I can do whatever I want. This exact same button works on any other thing. I don't recommend you go to Twitter anymore, but if you wanted to understand why American jobs are collapsing and you didn't want to get traumatized by all kinds of other stuff, you can just click here. And this thing knows how, again, it works on any web page on the internet. Okay? And it will do that for you, okay? I've got a similar button. Again, I'm showing it to you here on Twitter, but this works on any place where there's a person and information about a person. This is Gary Tan. He runs a thing called Y Combinator. If I wanted to understand Gary Tan, let's say I wanted to build a relationship with him, he was my prospect, whatever, I can push this little button, and this button does kind of a similar thing. It grabs all of this, and it's tasked with helping me understand what Gary is all about. Like, what does he care about? What does he post about? What are his perspectives? Who are people that he spends the most time talking to? Meaning, who are people that he trusts? So I can build a relationship with them. And they can then help me build a relationship with him. Okay? And I get all of that with a click of a button. Okay. A few more demos, and then we're going to build some of these. This is a 182-page quarterly financial disclosure from Goldman Sachs. If you told me to go through this and analyze it, I'd be like, just kill me. Okay, but I don't have to have anything kill me. I've got a little button here called Financial Analyst. If I click it, it'll spend like, 2 minutes doing it. But then it's going to come back to me with a fundamental analysis of this thing, help me understand, is this good, is this bad, what should I care about, what are the strengths, weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so again, run these things on anything you want. Okay, a few more things here quickly. These are job specs for, CTOs and things like that, okay? And so in the past, if I was to, try to find a job in this way, I would read through this job description, and then I'd need to write a cover letter, because especially today, these people are getting like overwhelmed with resumes. I'd need to write a cover letter making it very clear and succinct why I am specifically best qualified for this job. That's a lot of work. Well, I don't do that anymore. I've got a little button over here, and then I can simply upload my resume. And now this thing knows about the job description, it knows about my resume, and it can write a custom cover letter making it clear, point by point by point, why I am qualified to do this job, the best qualified. I'm also the best qualified to do this job and this job and this job and this job. But there would be no way for me to apply to all these jobs if I was writing cover letters myself. I would get tired, I would get bored, I would stop. But now I can apply to hundreds of jobs if I wanted to with a click of a button. And that's a huge game changer. We've seen people do this. This is transformative. Take advantage of it. I've now, for the 3 companies that I've founded, raised just over $140 million. And so I have a large network of venture capitalists as friends. But periodically, I like to engage in an activity I call VC collecting. And they get collected into this database. In this case, it's an Airtable, but it doesn't matter. It could go into HubSpot, or it could go into Google Sheets, or anything else you like. This thing has their name, their photo, their current title, their current fund, their professional summary, their education, their key experiences, their latest posts on LinkedIn, a link to their LinkedIn profile, and their email address. And the way that this database gets built is I simply go to LinkedIn and I do, a search, and then I get back a bunch of people. And again, let's say I wanted to connect with this person. In the past, I would say, oh, this is interesting. And I would look at all the things that he's been posting about and kind of understand what he cares about. And I would look at some of these other things, where he went to school. There's a lot of information here, and I'd have to digest it on my own. Then I'd click this connect button, and I would need to, in 300 characters, articulate to Peter why he should pay attention to me versus the 1,000 other people that tried to reach him today. Okay? It's a lot of work, extraordinarily inefficient. But listen, if you're trying to raise capital or build your network, really valuable. Well, I don't do that anymore. I have a little button. I just click this button. And by the way, I can just close this, because this thing, the way I built it, it doesn't return anything. It just grabs all of this information, and also then goes and finds his email address, which is not on the LinkedIn profile, uses another service to enrich it, and puts it in here. And then I could go on and say, what about this person here? We're not connected yet. Let's add them. And this person here, sure, that looks good to me also. Again, this ability to just push a button and add these people is huge. But of course, it doesn't stop there. You might notice some weird characters here. What is this square bracket here? And another one, it's weird comma things. There's these curly braces. What is this? Well, these are, this database is not for me. This database is for another agent that I have. I lovingly call it the VC harassment agent. And that agent, when it's running, connects to this database, looks at each one of these things, crafts a custom email, and sends it to these people. And then if they don't respond within a certain amount of time, it crafts a different email from a different angle, and it harasses them until they respond. And then it hands it off to me and say, hey, Ashton Kutcher is ready to talk to you. Thank you. And so this ability to just click a button and have Ashton Kutcher be ready to talk to you, that's magic. That's a superpower. I have that superpower. You can have that superpower too. These aren't exclusive superpowers. Okay? Did I do this weird annotation thing here? Or somebody else?
Dmitry, you can clear annotations.
Yeah, I learned to do it. Look at that. I did it all by myself.
You did it.
I used to struggle with that. I was like, how do we clear this? I learned. Yeah, slowly. Okay. There's a bunch of other things here I'll show you later, but let's build one of these agents, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to go to mindstudio.ai. I'm logged in, and I'm just going to reduce this. I'm going to say my workspace. And we're going to build an agent from scratch, okay? So now make sure you don't blink because this is going to go kind of fast. And the agent we're going to build is, you remember this agent that I showed you that I can click on a YouTube video or a long read or a PDF or whatever? This little purple thingy over here, I called it TLDR. That thing is magic. It makes me not have to spend my time and mental energy consuming giant amounts of content and just pulls out all the bullet points with a fine-tooth comb. That's what I want. That's what I would have done. It's like, just give me the facts. Okay? Maybe that's what I should call it. Just give me the facts. And so we're going to say build new agent. And we're going to click title here. And I'm going to indeed call this just give me the facts. Okay. I can also give it an icon. Let's see if I've got an icon somewhere here that I could find that we could use. No, but you can upload like any kind of icon you've got. I'm not going to spend our time doing that. You can set a bunch of other things in here, like these agents can be embedded and they can you can choose who's got access to them and all kinds of things. I'm not going to do any of that. I just gave it a name. Okay. Agents are made of workflows. You can have one or many. This one's just going to be one workflow. Workflows have a start, they have an end, and they have things in the middle. On the start block, these are called blocks, we have something called a trigger. A trigger is sort of like what it sounds like. It's how will this agent sort of wake up and start doing the things you want? Is it on demand? Meaning, are you gonna like push a button, load a URL and access it that way? Is it gonna run on a schedule? And then you need to specify a schedule. Is it going to be browser extension, which is what we're going to use? Is it going to be an emailable agent? Like I told you, it'll give it a custom email address or other things. Here we're going to say browser extension. And as soon as we do that, we get these things right here. And what this means is that when you choose browser extension, the platform automatically says, I'm going to give you the URL of the page on which the agent, on which you're pushing the button. So I'm going to give you whatever is in this field. This is called URL. That's going to be loaded automatically for us in a variable called URL, and we can use it. It's also going to give us what's known as the metadata. This is in the head of the document. It's going to give us the page content, and the page content is all the visible content on the page. That's what we're actually going to use in a moment. And then it's going to give us a bunch of other things. Okay. And so we already have that. So what have we done so far? We said new agent, we gave it a name, and we chose browser extension. That's all we've done so far. Now I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to choose this first thing right here called generate text. Again, this is just another block that we added. Another name for this block would be engage with a large language model and give it a command and get it to respond to you, okay? You can choose what model you're talking to. At the bottom here, as I mentioned, we support over 200 models. If you want to switch to a different model, you just click use. If you want to read about it, you can click here and learn a bunch of things about it. For now, I'm just going to leave it at the model we have. This is perfectly fine. And I'm going to write a prompt, right? What do you do with models? You prompt models. And so we're going to write a prompt. And the prompt I'm going to write is extract all learnings. And then I'm going to use these double curly braces, okay? And make my screen a bit bigger. These characters we typically don't find ourselves using, in our regular knowledge work, these double curly braces, but here they're extremely important, okay? As soon as you type double curly braces, you get this drop down of all of the things you can pick from. One of them is that page content thing that I showed you, and that's what we're going to pick. And we get page content automatically because we said browser extension. It says I'm going to give you all the page content. All the page content is all the visible stuff here. And then and we're done. So we just built that agent, that crazy powerful agent that lets you read YouTube videos in minutes that would take you many hours and attention to digest. You're just going to push a button and it's going to give you that superpower, giant PDFs or giant long reads. This agent is that simple. And then we simply say publish. And now we're done. And now we can go back to this page, for example. Now, as I mentioned, these agents are my favorite. They're pinned. I use them often. This one we just made, so it can't yet be my favorite. So I have to click on this little M. And it's going to show up right here. Just give me the facts. And I'm just going to say run. And it's going to give me a bunch of bullet points about what's inside this content. Again, I can run this on YouTube. I can run this on PDFs. I can run this anywhere. Okay. Okay. Again, this is superpower. This is absolutely the first agent you should build. Because once you have something like this, you can't live without it. You start to realize, holy crap, this is like ultimately unlocking. It gives me back the vast majority of my time and mental energy. It is liberty. It is freedom. Use it. Use it. Okay. But let's not stop at amazing. Let's keep going. So here's this agent we just built. It's in our published agents. I'm going to click this little button, and I'm just going to duplicate it, make a copy of it. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to rename this, and I'll call this Financial Analyst. Okay. I'm going to leave everything else alone. I'm not going to touch this block. I'm not going to change this prompt. All I'm going to do is down below here, we didn't look at this section here called settings. We saw that there was this model selector, but we didn't look at that. The default output behavior on this block is to display the response from the model back to the user, which is what we did in our TLDR. But here I'm going to change that, and I'm going to say save to variable. And so we can store the output of this. Instead of displaying it back to the user, we can store it in a new variable. Does anyone not know what a variable is? A variable is just a way to like label something and store data in it. So then you can reuse it, okay? And so we're going to store in a variable. We need to choose the variable name. We can choose any name we want. I'm going to call it bullets because that's kind of what comes back, right? We know that what comes back from pushing that original thing we made from the response to this prompt, what we get back are a bunch of bullet points. And so I'm just going to call them bullets. And then I'm going to continue. I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to click this. I'm going to choose another model call. It's the same block as this. It's to call a large language model. And here what I'm going to say is do a fundamental analysis on this stock. And here I'm going to go to the top, although you can put it anywhere, but it's best practices to put it at the top. What we need to provide to it is the output of this thing, these bullet points, right? So I'm going to give these bullet points, and I'm going to give these to this. And I'm going to call this right here, I'm going to call this stock. You can call it anything you want. And again, this has nothing to do with MindStudio. This is what's known as prompt engineering, okay? And so you can do a fundamental analysis on this. And then here I can go like this, and here I can say bullets, and now I've got this stock. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's one way to do it. I'll show you an even simpler way to do it, which is not to add that, but simply say duplicate. And then right in here, I can simply change this and say do a fundamental analysis on this stock. By the way, you can put a colon here or not, doesn't matter, okay? And put page content here. And then rename this, and I can call this financial analyst. And then I can simply publish this. So again, so the only things we changed was I changed this thing right here, do a fundamental analysis on the stock instead of, extract all learnings. So I'm going to publish this. And now let's go find a stock. And then let's go to like Yahoo Finance, which is a popular site. Again, this runs anywhere there's information about a stock. Now I can click this button. There's my financial analyst, and I can say run. And it understands, even though there's like a bunch of other stock data here, it understands that what we're looking at here is the Tesla stock, and it's going to perform a fundamental analysis on this stock. Really powerful. So again, just by doing this one thing, this one pattern, browser extension, one generate text block, and a command, again, leaving this page content as is, giving it a command that's specific. What do you want it to do? You want it to extract all learnings? Cool. You want it to do a fundamental analysis? Cool. And then just publishing it. And you can build countless superpowers in order to be able to do whatever it is you do specifically, frequently, just with this one pattern. 3 blocks, just one block that you need to add. Does that make sense? Just by giving it page content, which is all the stuff on the page, and giving it some command, you can do this. Let me show you something else here. So what does it mean to do a fundamental analysis on a stock? Well, the model generally understands what would be a fundamental analysis, but let's say we wanted to have more control of our fundamental analysis. So instead of doing this, watch this. Follow my mouse here. At the bottom right here of this thing, there's a thing called Edit in Full Screen. I'm going to click that. And at the bottom of this, there's a button called Generate. And I'm going to click Generate. And I'm going to write, provided with a stock, do a fundamental analysis. And I'm going to say Generate. And again, so this is not a very good prompt. Do a fundamental analysis on the stock. But what this thing does is it takes that bad prompt and makes it into a much better prompt. And then we can look at the prompt that it generates, and then we can optimize it. We can change things about it. We can delete things in it. Like, we can make it our own. See, now we've got a much more comprehensive prompt than our one-line prompt that we sent. Okay, and now, again, this is just in full screen. It's also here. Okay, and we still need to provide it with it's really important to provide this page content variable here. Oops, page, double curly braces, page content. And again, it's best practice. I kind of got ahead of myself. I apologize earlier showing you some of this, but I'll show it to you here. Again, this has to do not with MindStudio. This has to do with what's known as prompt engineering. How do you nuance what models you're prompting for models? And best practices is when you're giving a model a large prompt and also giving it a bunch of context, a bunch of data. Instead of just putting the data here, you want to label the data. And you do that by using this format. And this is called XML. It sort of looks like HTML. For those of you that have seen that before, indentation doesn't matter. I just do it because it's easier to read. And so you give it a label, in this case, like this is the stock, because we're going to be doing a fundamental analysis on the stock. This is the stock. This / stock ends this. This starts it, and then everything between it is going to be considered stock. And so this is the right way to prompt models when you're giving it a bunch of data and a prompt, okay? And again, I could publish this and I could run it again. If we already are running this agent, I can just click these 3 dots. By the way, here I could pin it, so it's always available to me. I could edit it, or I could just do a new run and do a new run. And then once again, it's going to grab all this data and it's going to run a fundamental analysis on the stock in a much more specific way, in the way we prompted it to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and build one more agent, and I'll take questions, and then we'll build a bunch of other agents. Okay, so let's go back here. Ooh, too big. I'm going to take that thing again that we built called Just Give Me the Facts, and I'm going to make a copy of it. Yeah, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to call this content to LinkedIn post. Okay. I'm not going to change anything about this. I'm not going to change anything about this. Here again, I'll do these bullets. I kind of confused myself again. Lack of calories for 5 days. I'm going to blame. I'm going to save this to a variable. We're going to call that variable bullets. Okay. These are bullet points about any content that we're going to be seeing. Again, what am I making here? I'm making a button that I can click on any page or on any YouTube video, and it's going to generate a LinkedIn post about it and then post it to LinkedIn. That's what we're making here really quickly. Okay. And so the first thing we need to do, I propose to write a good LinkedIn post is to look at the content and you kind of make it less verbose, extract all the salient points, extract all learnings is a good prompt. By the way, you don't have to use this prompt. You could say, enumerate all of the, salient points or facts or statements or claims or like, just give me the TLDR of this thing, right? I like this prompt. This prompt works really well. Learnings actually implies a bunch of things. It implies like get rid of the fluff and like what are the things. So it's a good word in models. Okay. And so we're just going to do that. We can call a model. We're going to give it all the content on the page. We're going to say extract all learnings. We know it comes back with a bunch of bullets. We're going to store it in a variable called bullets. Then we're going to continue. Here I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to do another model call. I'm going to leave the model the same. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to give it these bullets. Okay. And again, end bullets. And here inside of it, double curly braces, bullets. I'm going to give it these bullets. And then I'm going to say, write a LinkedIn post. Okay, I don't even have to say about this because it's going to know that it's about this. I can also add some additional commands like use emojis. LinkedIn loves emojis. And these models actually already know that LinkedIn loves emojis, but I want to make sure that it includes emojis. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And also one more thing, this is a best practice. I know through just lots of experience that it's good to say return only. Return is basically means like give me back. Again, you can use anything you want. You can say only give me these, but I'm going to say return only the post and no other text. Why? Does anybody know why? Put it in the comments. Why would I do that? What might happen if I didn't do that? What might these things do? Anybody know? I don't see anybody typing yet. Okay, I'll tell you. Pull other text outside of the post. Yeah, a lot of times when you do something like this, the model will say, here's the post you requested. And I don't want that because I'm going to post whatever it comes back with. I'm going to post that to LinkedIn. I certainly don't want my LinkedIn post to say, here's the post you requested in the post. And that's why, again, you just do it through trial and error. Okay, and then I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to say view all blocks. So far, we've just used this one block, but there are many other blocks. In fact, there's 123 here. There's another 664 here. Okay. And we're going to look for LinkedIn, and there's a block here called create LinkedIn post. I'm going to add that. And with this block, again, different blocks, you click on them, and then you configure them on the right? You click on this, you configure it on the right. You click on this, you configure it on the right. And they have different configuration settings, depending on what the block is. This block asks us for an account. Now, if we've never used it before, we're going to have to log into LinkedIn, okay, just once, and then it will be authenticated, and you can use it from then on. You can also have many accounts. I've got 3, and so I can choose from which ones. I'm just going to use this one. And here it says, what do you want me to post to LinkedIn? And here I'm going to write post. Oh, sorry. I forgot one thing. I didn't change this. Right here, the behavior on this block where we're asking it to write a LinkedIn post is to display it back to the user. That's obviously not what we want. We want to save it to a variable, and I'm going to call this variable post. You can call it anything you want, but it makes sense to me to call it post. I could have called it LinkedIn post. Etc. What comes back from this after we do the call to the model and give it the bullets and ask it to write a post, what it's going to return back to us is a post. Okay. But again, you can call this anything you want. The only reason you even have these names is for these other blocks to be able to reference them, to use them. Okay. Now, and so here, I'm just going to give it the post. What do I want it to post to LinkedIn? I want it to post whatever this model came back with, generated. We stored it in post. Now, I'm also old enough to know that I probably shouldn't post things to LinkedIn that I haven't reviewed. And so before I post it, but after I create the post, I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to use a different block. And this block is called display content. Now, display content, people sometimes get it confused with generate text because they kind of look the same. but they're not. They're not even remotely the same. Generate text sends all of this to a model and gets a response back. Display content only displays things back to the user. It doesn't call any model. It doesn't do any processing. It just is a way to display something back to the user that's using this agent. And what I'm going to display here is you guys type it in chat for me. What should I type in this field here? Variable name, post. Exactly, post. That's what I want to type in here. I just want to display a post back. I could type, this is the post. Again, this is just for me. It's going to come back just to the user. I'm just going to say post. And the default behavior of this stops execution and displays things to the user and waits for the user to do something. Okay, this is called a human in the loop block. Have any of you heard this term human in the loop? Yeah, okay. So this is a common pattern where a human is supervising the agent automation. Okay, and so again, let's review what we're going to do here. Now we're going to run it. We're going to click a browser extension button. It's going to call a model. It's going to give it all the page content. Again, that's all the visible stuff on the page. And it's going to ask it to extract all learnings. And that's going to return back a long list of bullet points, right? We're going to save that to a variable. We called it bullets. We could have called it anything else we wanted. We called it bullets. Then we're going to call a model again. And we're going to give it these bullets. And then we say to it, write a LinkedIn post about these bullets. It recognizes that. You don't have to be verbose. Use emojis, return only the post, no other text. And we're going to store the output of that in a variable called post. We're then going to display that back to ourselves so we can see it and choose whether we want to post it to LinkedIn or not. If we say yes, then it will go ahead and post it to LinkedIn, and then it's going to end. Cool? Let's publish it. Let's go to, again, let's go to this like TLDR thing. Oops, not TLDR, this long read. Yeah, all kinds of loopiness going on with me today. We're going to go on this long read, and we're going to click plus, and we're going to find our content to LinkedIn agent. I'm going to say run, and we can actually see it running right here. See, it's doing it. This is one way to do it, so like watch this, or let me show you a better way. Right here, there are some tabs on the left. I'm going to click the debugger tab. And so we can see as things are running, we can watch them run. And we can see all the things that are happening behind the scenes. We can see all these like variables getting initiated. Again, at this moment, you don't care about them, but they're here for you. When you get more advanced, they'll be more relevant. We're calling the model generate text, and we're saying to it extract all learnings in page content. Now, this is interesting to watch. Watch this. If I say extract all learnings content, that's what we typed in. But what you actually get is, oops, this is the content. All of this gets expanded, and the model doesn't see extract all learnings. The model sees all of the learnings expanded, and see this result that comes back. These are those bullet points that came back, and they got stored in a variable called bullets, saving result in a variable called bullets. Okay, Irina, I see your hand raised. I will give me one moment here, and I'll answer it. And then it calls the other model, and it gives it the bullets and all of the prompt, and then it comes back with a post. And at this moment, we are paused on this block, display content. And so if we look back here, what we see here is we see the LinkedIn post with emojis and hashtags and all of that. And if we like it, we can click next, and that's going to get posted to LinkedIn. I'm not going to do it because then I have to go and delete it, but you guys can play around with this. Like, that's what it's going to do. It's going to go to the next block and post it to LinkedIn. Okay, Irina?
Yes, Dmitry, short question. Sometimes when I distribute content throughout like AI platforms, it's impossible to make tags like on a company or mention a company. Is it possible inside AI agent MindStudio? So that would be awesome.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
When, for example, I'm posting a post, I need to tag a company. Like, for example,
MindStudio. Oh, to add mention the company.
Yes.
To add mention the company.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I haven't tried it. You should try it. You would type at and the company name and see if it does it. I'm not sure if their autocomplete will do it or not. But it's a great question. Maybe find out and tell us afterwards. If anybody has done it, let us know
Yeah,
in
thank
chat.
you.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a moment. Again, we've got a bunch of other things to go through, but I haven't been paying attention to chat, but I'm sure Luis has. And are there questions that I should address in the meantime?
There was an interesting question regarding the browser extension and what actually can get seen, what can be extracted. The question had to do with the financial or the fundamental analysis on the stock. And they were asking, can you have it access the other links on that page, or is it just what it can see on the page? Like how much control does that browser extension have?
Yeah, great question. So let me share my screen. And let's go take a look at our start block again. So I mentioned these launch variables. When you choose browser extension, the system says you might need to know about a bunch of things about the page on which the button is being clicked. One is the URL. Again, that's this thing over here. Each page on the internet has a unique URL. Another thing is this thing called metadata. Metadata is something that exists inside the HTML itself in this head section. There are all these, they're called meta tags. There's like a bunch of stuff here. There's a bunch of valuable information here. Depending on what kind of agent you're building, a bunch of the information you might be seeking might be in these meta tags that are here, and you get access to all of those. You get page content. Again, page content is all the visible stuff on the page. By the way, that includes all of this, including this navigation and all of that. So it's all of this, not the images, just all the textual things that are on the page. And so you get all of that. That's stored in the variable page content. Full text is like page content. It's deprecated, so we don't use it anymore, but some people in the past have used it, so we've left it here. User selection, if a user is selecting something on the page and then clicks the button, the variable user selection has that chunk in it. Yeah, just that chunk is the user selection. And then finally, there's a variable called raw HTML. And what raw HTML means is you get everything in the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that makes the page up. And that's where all the information lives. So if it lives on the page, whether you see it or not, it lives in raw HTML. And then you can get access to it. And you can just, again, because models are freaking amazing, you can dump this giant raw HTML document into them and say, find all the links or find this or find that. So mostly the things you're going to be building, you're going to be using this page content variable. But if the information is not coming back in the page content, overwhelmingly so, it's going to be in this raw HTML thing, and just switch it for raw HTML. Double curly braces, raw HTML, and double curly braces, and you're good to go. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, we've got lots of other agents to build too, and so
I think that's good for now. I think your question, people's questions are going to get answered as you continue building things.
I'm
so,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's do it. You guys can still see my screen. Thank you. I'm going to go to MindStudio. I'm going to click my workspace. I'm going to click Build New Agent. Actually, before I click Build New Agent, I want to show you something. On the left, there's a bunch of things here for managing your workspace and billing and all kinds of things. There's a section here called Agents. I'm going to click this. Starred is a concept we have in MindStudio. It's a type of favoriting, except it's not pinning. It's like one less than pinning. Pinning is like I always have these things here. Starred, so these are my absolute favorite. Starred are things that come up that aren't my absolute favorite, but I want to keep them around there. So it's the next level of that. So starred. when you start, you're not going to have anything start. So this section isn't even going to exist. This workspace I have here is called Dmitry Demo. I have a bunch of other workspaces too. Again, workspace is the environment in which you build and operate agents. I've got all of these agents and 334 more. These are agents I've built. And so I see those, you haven't built any. And so you're not going to see anything. But what you will see is over 100 AI agents that's ready for you to use that we've built. And you can just run them, okay? And these agents come up in your browser extension right here, you see? And so as soon as you install the browser extension, you automatically have access to over 100 really powerful agents to just run without ever having built any. They're just there for you, okay? And so that's one thing you should know is you can just run them. The other thing you can do with these agents is you can take them and you can click on this and you can read about them, or you can make a copy of the agent. I'm going to say make a copy. You remember how I was taking my TLDR agent that we made and I kept like duplicating it as like a template to start from it? You can think of all of these as templates that are here. Not only are there agents that you can run, they're also templates that you can simply make a copy of. And now you can simply modify these and then save it, publish it, and you're done. Okay, so take advantage of these as being templates, as being scaffolds. But today we're building agents from scratch. And so we're going to say create new agent. And I'm going to call this agent blog post. I told you guys that I'm on a 5th day of no calories. And so I'm going to blame that for my horrible typing today. Okay, we are going to make an agent that's an application. It's going to have front-end interface. It's going to have screen, and then it's going to have output, okay? And it's going to run on a phone or on your computer, and it's going to be a blog post generator. And we're going to make a simple blog post generator. You're going to learn some new concepts, okay? On the start block, we need to choose a trigger. In this case, I'm going to leave it as on demand. This is the trigger for applications. On demand, I'm going to ask it whenever I want to generate a blog post, I'm going to go to this agent and it's going to give me a screen. Okay. Well, before we were choosing browser extension, right? Now we're choosing on demand. Okay. Then we're going to block. And in order to and so I'm going to choose your inputs because you might have many. And so I'm going to click. You guys still with me? Yeah, I got
Dimitri, I think you froze. Maybe
yeah,
that
I
was
had
just
some
on
kind of
my
a
end.
network error thing come up, but am I back?
You're back. Can you go back a couple of steps and
Yes.
re-explain?
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
again, we're choosing on demand. In order to be able to build screens and forms, we have to add a user input. And a user input is, again, things that you show to the user that have interfaces interactive. And then so you add this thing, it's basically a container for a user input, and then you add individual user inputs to it. I'm going to click this little plus sign here and say create new. And now take a look on the right-hand side. This is a form field, right? We've all seen form fields in applications. There are different types of form fields. This is a long text. This is a short text. This is a text multiple choice. You can obviously have many, not just yes or no. This is an image multiple choice. Again, you configure images here. Again, you can have many. For example, you can build something that says, choose all the things that seem yummy. Is a big grid of pictures of dishes, and then go. That's extraordinarily powerful. Okay. Or you can have ratings, or you can have file uploads and image uploads, and all kinds of things. Okay, here I'm just going to say long text, and then I get to choose a label, meaning what does this thing say? And I'm going to say, what should the blog post be about? And then we need to store that in a variable. And we can give this variable any kind of name. We could have left it as input. I'm going to call mine topic. That's the topic of the blog post. That's what it's going to be about. I'm going to close this. And now we've got inside our little user input container, we have one thing called topic. By the way, we can preview this already. And we can say open draft agent. And we can see that we already have that label and that form field. What should the blog post be about? Cool. Now let's add a few other fields. I'm going to click plus, create new. Here I'm going to choose short text. And I'm going to say in what style. And I'm going to call this variable style. And then I'm going to add one last one. I'm going to say create new. And here I'm also going to choose short text. And I'm going to say how many words. And I'm going to call this num words. Again, you can call these anything you want. This is common practice with developers to start variable names with lowercase, then the next word is capitalized, okay? And so now we have 3 things in our form. Again, we can preview it. What should the blog post be about? In what style, how many words? Okay, and it's an application. By the way, this is responsive, so it works on mobile, works on desktop. We could publish it now, but what does it do, right? Like if I fill this form out and say next, it's going to say congratulations, you're done. That's obviously not what we want because it just goes to the next block, which is end. So before that, we're going to click plus, and we're going to call a model. And we are going to say, write a blog post. And then we're going to give it all of these variables that we've collected. You can also see them here on the left-hand side, the topic, style, and num words. Remember how we do this? We do it like this. Topic, double curly braces, topic. And then we give it the style and style and double curly braces style. You'll see periodically this like change in colors. Don't worry about this, like a weird artifact that periodically happens. Doesn't mean anything. And then here, I'm going to call this number of words. But again, it doesn't matter what you call this. It's just a label. It just helps the model understand what it is that's inside of these things, num words, okay? And so it's going to have the topic, the style, and the number of words. And then we're going to give it a command, write a blog post. And here we're just going to leave this for now, display to user, okay? And then, again, I could preview it, or in this case, I'm just going to publish it. And then I can open it, okay? And again, each application that you build, each agent you build has a unique URL that's automatically generated for it. And then whenever you run it, it gets kind of a unique ID for that run. So it says, what should the blog post be about? And I will say how AI will transform work. And then in what style? I always use Gary V. Does everybody know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? It's like this creator, social media creator who has like a style that's kind of aggressive and kind of like preachy, and you know, people love him. And I'm going to say 1,000 words, okay? And I'm going to say next. And so it's going to take this and it's going to send it to a model, and it's going to write a blog post. Now, again, those of you that know Gary will realize that hustle is his favorite word. He speaks like this. I'm going to cut through the bullshit. You know, this is obviously Gary. This is not any way that I would write anything. But this is Gary's unique style. And now we got this. It's still writing our blog post. And this seems like, oh, this like a blog post in the style of Gary Vee. That's cool. And again, we built it by doing what? Just giving ourselves an app that allows us to type in a topic, a style, and num words. And so this is a blog post generator. Now, it's not a great blog post generator. Well, one reason is because the prompt I gave it was write a blog post. Well, there's many ways you could interpret write a blog post. And let's say that we want it to be more precise because our blog posts need to be in a certain sort of template, let's call it, right? And so we can give this thing some more thing. And so we could say like template, or we could say sample, or we could say write it like this. It doesn't matter. You're talking to a model. They're very flexible. Here I'm going to say template. And watch this. Now, again, there's a bunch of ways to write this because you're just talking to a model. And so I can write templates as being like just bullet points, for example, and I'm going to say, you know, strong title, provocative. Okay, you can do it like this. I like to do it, and it is best practice, not just I like to do it. Models like it this way, that you use square brackets for templating. Okay, and so square brackets, strong title, provocative, cool. I'm going to add another one, and here I'm going to say funny subtitle. Okay, and then I'm going to say, again, you can make spaces, it doesn't matter, it doesn't care. I'm going to use another square bracket, and then I'm going to say one paragraph TLDR. And then I'm going to say main point, and then I'm going to say 3 times subpoints. And then I'm going to say dot, dot, dot. It's like a bunch of them, as many as you want. And then I could be more precise, at least 5 or just 5, right? I'm just going to say dot, dot, dot. I don't care. And then I'm going to say conclusion with a strong call to action. Okay? And it's just like I'm giving hints to the model of what do I mean by write a blog post. Okay? And now I'm going to publish that. And then we're going to open up our agent again. We still have this one, so we could compare them. And then I'm going to say ice cream in what style, Gary V. And how many words? Let's do 1,000 again. And I'm going to say next. And now it's going to write a different kind of a blog post for us. Still going to be about hustle because it's Gary V. Okay. I'm not sure this is funny, but you know, here's our 1 paragraph TLDR. Then there's a main point. Then there are 3 subpoints. There's another main point. There are another 3 subpoints. Make this action plan, and this is our conclusion with a call to action. Okay, and so this ability to provide examples to the models, again, this has nothing to do with MindStudio. This has to do with prompt engineering. And as you start to build more and more of these agents, you realize there are many things you can do to get the models to do exactly what you want them to do, not just kind of what you want them to do. Okay? Okay, cool. So again, now we've learned to build these little buttons that can, that you can push. We've learned, Wayne, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a real quick question. So in your previous examples, you were showing how to build agents that lived inside of the web browser that could sort of understand and dictate back to you that content, right? In this example, this is not necessarily crawling anything that's on a web browser. You're building a module to help kind of with the streamline the workflow to take existing content in the sort of spirit, voice, whatever it is, to create content for you. But this is not the same kind of same kind of approach to crawl the web, get the information, and output. This is
Right.
I'm trying to get into my head, like, why are we building an agent to then input as in a standalone model versus doing that inside of the blog post generator
In the
prompt
browser
window?
extension.
Yeah.
So again, there's different, just in our lives, right? If you think about your own workflows, there are different things that we do. Sometimes we need to parse things that we find on the web. Sometimes we need to open up a blank Google Doc and write some things, right? And they're very different. Or we need to open up some application on our phone or computer and like enter some information, right? So if you're dealing with information that you're looking at on the web, the right way to then engage with it is to build a browser extension button because it can grab all that content and do something. If you need to be writing blog posts, part of your job is to write blog posts about whatever things, they're not on the web. You're not trying to grab somebody's page. By the way, you could easily in seconds build a browser extension that, again, grabs that content that you're looking at, writes a blog post about it, just like we wrote a LinkedIn post about it. We could write a blog post in this format about any YouTube video, about any long read, about anything. Yeah. There's like countless content creators that no longer use their brain to create content. They use a button. They see somebody else's video, they push a button, that video extracts all the valid points, creates completely new content about it, and then posts it to Facebook, Twitter, whatever, right? LinkedIn, etc. And so, yeah, just different types of things. You can build many different types of things that you need using MindStudio. And again, so far we've learned to build the browser extension buttons. Again, all of that is configured here. Browser extension on demand. Yeah. We get, again, just as easily. If we say email, this thing says, I've already given this thing a custom email address, main4225c8af at MindStudio hook. And I can just copy that. And I can then just send emails to this thing. And that will be an agent doing that. It doesn't make sense to send it to this because I've got this user input. But we could easily make an agent where we send it an email or an email thread, and then ask it to, again, extract all the to-dos for everyone, or to write a blog post about it, or countless other things. So different ways to get information into this agent, from a web page, from us typing it in, from us emailing it something, or programmatically doing it using APIs. Okay, let me show you a few other things here. So as I mentioned, if people compare us to other platforms, 9 out of 10 times they compare us to a platform called N8N. And I've learned that the best way to keep an eye on your competitors is to look at how they're changing their terms of service. Because small changes that they do don't impact the terms of service, but any meaningful changes they do impact the terms of service. And therefore, if you simply monitor their terms of service, then you can understand what's happening with this company. And so this agent, again, is very simple. Okay, and what it does is it tracks website changes. Again, this is a block we have in this long list of blocks. We haven't gone through these yet. I'll go through these in a bit, like all of the different blocks that you have access to here that you can do it. One of them is track website changes, this block right here. And the configuration on that block is what URL do you want to monitor? Now, this thing also runs on a schedule. This is not something I have to pay attention to. It just runs on a schedule, and every day it connects and it looks at this thing right here and it compares it to the previous results. And then if it has changes, it goes down this path, it analyzes the changes, and then sends me an email with the analysis. If there are no changes, it doesn't bother me. It just ends. And so the only time I get an email from this thing is if there are meaningful changes in our competitors' terms of service. This is awesome. To create a new one of these, right? What would it take to create a new one of these? You could simply make a copy of this. You already know how to do that. Just click on it, make a copy. And what do you have to change? Nothing, just one thing right here. Just what's the URL? You want to track another one? Make another agent. You want to track another one? Make another agent. Now you can be tracking hundreds of things. And again, you're paying attention to them, but no longer with your mental energy. If there's nothing happening here, you never had to go there and pay attention to it. Only if things happen that are legitimate for you to pay attention to, only then does your agent nudge you. You should spend a little mental energy paying attention to this. Again, I mean, I'm sure it's impossible, but I'll try. But to describe to you what that means, if you step back and think about all the things that you go and like load and keep an eye on in the world that are happening, and you spend your time and mental energy doing that, is overwhelming. Now you can just sort of audit all of that and realize that in seconds you can build a new agent for that, the new agent for that, the new agent for that, and just go through that. And it'll take you half an hour to build whatever, 20 agents maybe even, that do that. And then now you've freed the vast majority of your time up. And also you freed like this like mental energy that we use to remember to have to do that. And now we can just forget about it. We never have to do that again. We have no more responsibility to do any of that. It's absurdly liberating and incredibly powerful to do that. Okay, and easy to build these things. Okay, some other things here. So I have 5 kids, and my the oldest is 11. The oldest is a boy, the rest are girls. And this is my oldest girl. Her name is Una. Today is her birthday, in fact. She turned 10. And Una loves to make slime. That's an iPhone above her thing. She likes to make slime, and she likes to make videos about making slime. You guys know what slime is? It's kind of disgusting, but I've gotten to love it. Like, it's really cool, but like in some ways you touch it, you're like, gross. She loves it. Okay. And so this is her desktop. You know, she's got this like kind of a thing here. She's got this light that's above her, and that's her making slime. And so I, being the nerd that I am, decided that I would build an AI agent that does this. So Una did not come up with the idea for the slime, nor did Una make this slime or make the video about the slime. All of this was done by one AI agent. Now, this is Una's background. That is Una's light, and those are reflections on Una's glass table. But those are not Una's hands. And Una did not make this. Now, I don't know if you can hear this, but there's music and there's ASMR. There's like this crackly and gooey sounds that are happening. All of this is built, is created by an agent that I built in less than 15 minutes. I'm going to show you that agent. And again, just creates a bunch of videos about Una doing stuff, and it's awesome. Okay, let's take a look at that agent. Now, again, I just moved these around just for fun, but like mostly they're linear. And this is the agent. Like, how many blocks? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 blocks. Let's look at these blocks. The first block is a generate text block. This is our friendly first block here, call a model. And I'm going to click here to see it in full screen just so we can better see it and see what this prompt says. It says, create a text to video prompt for a unique slime by randomly combining elements from each category below. Each generated prompt should follow this structure. Remember double or square brackets? This is just templating. Shot type of slime description, action sequence, special effects and details, visual style, technical specs. Random elements to combine. Shot types, these are the shot types it can choose from. Base slime types. Colors, it can pick 1 to 3. Texture mix-ins. And then, you know, actions, special. So it just sort of enumerates. By the way, I didn't write any of this. I clicked generate, and I said, create a text to video prompt to generate a custom slime. I didn't have to say anything else, and it came back with this. I didn't change a word about it. Okay, return only the prompt and no other text. We've already learned that. That's a good practice. Otherwise, it says, here's the prompt you requested. I don't want that. And I just simply store that in a variable called prompt. Okay, so that's the first block. The first block conceptualizes of a slime by combining these various things and returns back to us a text to video prompt. We store that in a variable called prompt. Then we use a different block. Again, when we click plus here, as I said, there are many different types of blocks to generate text or generate images or generate videos or generate visualizations of numeric data or create all kinds of pixel perfect and interactive assets that you can generate, or to analyze images. You can give it an image and it can come back to you with labeling and analysis of what's in the image, or analyzing video or creating two host podcasts. You can give it a script and it can create a podcast for you of 2 people speaking with one another about this thing. It's crazy. Or to scrape URLs to connect to a web and get stuff, or to connect to any kind of databases, to call APIs, many, 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 many things. Flow control, connect to various social media services, and obviously a bunch of Google things. This one uses a Google Sheet, update Google Sheet block, send emails, send SMSs, post things to Slack, and then 664 more of these things. Okay. So this one uses, another block, which is the generate video block. And all it does is it just gives it that prompt that we just generated here. That's all it does. It gives it the prompt. Now, the generate video block also has some other settings. One is like when it generates it. You remember how we always store something in a variable? The way the generate video block is same as generate image block. What it gives you back is the URL to the thing it generated. So it generates something, it stores it on the web, and it brings back to you the URL of it. And you need to store it in something if you want to use it later. So I just stored it in a variable called video URL. So the video URL is going to be a pointer to the video that it created. And that's going to be stored in video. Then we get to choose our model settings. Again, we support a bunch of different video models. I chose VO3. We get to choose the duration. We get to choose whether we wanted to include audio or not. If you do, it generates the audio. It generates the ASMR things in it. You get to choose an aspect ratio. This enhanced prompt is a thing that's built in that makes your prompt better. Also, it supports what's called an input image. Let me show you what that is. I literally just took a screenshot of one of the videos that Una created. So these are Una's hands, and that is Una's slime, and that's her desktop. And I just took a screenshot, and so I provide to the model this screenshot, and that's how it knows that this is what the background looks like, that there's this light here. All I needed to do was give it the screenshot. And that's it. You can also give it a negative prompt of like what to exclude. I didn't do any of that. And so that gets stored in video URL. Okay. Then I call a text model, generate text, and I give it the prompt that we generated here. And it says, you are provided with a description of a slime shown in a video. Generate the following: the name of the slime, something that's fun, satisfying, catchy, something people would love to buy. She doesn't sell anything, but in general. Description of the slime, one paragraph copy that describes the uniqueness of the slime, what it feels like, what it sounds like, make description captivating. That's it, And then it stores it in this format called JSON. Again, I'm not going to teach you JSON here, but we do teach it in our boot camps. You can learn it on your own. It's just a way to structure data. So it brings back to me the name and the description of the slime. And then we simply use an update Google Sheet block. And then I just create a new row in it. And so again, if I go to Sheets and, I look at Una Slime Co. shorts, there's the name, there's the description, and for each one of them, there is a video. This doesn't have any music, but it's got the ASMR. She then takes this. Now, I could have automated all of it, including the posting, but Una wants some creative control. And so she just logs into this Google Sheet, and then she takes 7 of these at a time, because they're all 8 seconds long, puts them together in the order she wants them in, adds music, and then pushes a button and shares it to YouTube or TikTok and all that. And you'll be like, the amount of heavy lifting that this thing does, right, is insane. And you just so easy to build. I had to generate this thing for me. I didn't do anything. It took less than a minute. Here I just gave it the prompt, right? And gave it this like reference image. That's it. And here I just said, I need a name for this thing and I need a description because it's good to post that along with the slime. And I said, just put it in a Google Sheet. Or I could have put, upload to YouTube. Okay. And so again, lots of awesome things that you can just build with like no effort in a sense to be able to do that. Let me show you another thing just to point out that these things can get, like we've been seeing agents that have relatively few blocks, but here's an agent that has many blocks. So this agent is called a deep research agent. What it does, actually, let me quickly show you. It's a professional Google searcher and sort of consultant analyst. And you give it, when you run it, it gives you a user input. It says, what do you want to research? And do you want me to generate a 10-minute podcast about the research where two people are going to discuss this research. And so that's all you do. And then you say next. Okay. And so this is the front end to it. You remember we learned how to make user inputs. This has 3 user inputs. Display something, that's a user input. Long text, user input, and a text multiple choice user input. Okay. And then next. And so what does it do after it does that? Well, it's a professional Google searcher. Google is an index for what exists publicly, right? And if you are, let's say, an investigative journalist or an analyst or a private investigator, if you want to research something and you really know how to use Google, you know all the Google search operators, you know how to craft Google queries that don't bring you 41 million results, but get you exactly what you want. You're a master of that, okay? Most people aren't. Vast majority of people don't know what I mean when I say Google search operator. These are like incredible commands that you can learn to make Google return back things that are much more precise. This thing knows how to do that. And it follows, so first of all, it has a bunch of workflows, okay? Not just one. So far, we've been dealing with one workflow. This has a bunch. The main flow looks like this. And let's go through it, okay? By the way, we could easily make a copy of this and just be doing it, right? Oh, what is happening? It's weird. Oops. How did I get locked out? Weird. Okay, so there's our copy of the research. Okay, so it starts. Then it uses a logic block. A logic block allows you to analyze things, then route them different ways depending on what it is. And what this logic block does is it says, is the user's request a good request or not? Meaning, is it valid? Some users, you might be surprised, like to flirt with deep researchers or any other apps. And it's like really weird. They'll type in the dumbest things and you don't want to like burn through all of these steps that this thing goes through if it's just dumb. And so it says if it's dumb, tell them you're naughty and, you know, get them to start again. Then if it passes that gate, it says, listen, users aren't very good at expressing what they want. And so this thing puts it at the bottom. But again, we understand it takes this request. That's what the user typed in into that field. And it says, using the provided user request, expand and enrich the request into a prompt that can be sent to a researcher, resolve any ambiguity, disambiguate best possible, blah, blah, blah. So again, it sort of says, make this request better. And then it just overwrites the variable request. And so now we have a better request. Then it calls a model and it says, analyze the request and create a research plan, how to leverage Google search in order to fulfill the request. Think about what questions you might want to ask, sources you might trust. And again, it just gives it the request. By the way, you can put this on one line, right? We've been putting it on 3 lines, but none of that matters. I've been indenting it. None of that matters. You can do it on 1 line, okay? And then, so that comes back and it gives us a plan. We save it in a variable called plan. Then we use a different block called user context. This block allows the agent to interview the user. And you provide like, what kind of an interview do you want it to give? It says, here's the research plan. Here's the user's request. Here's the current date. If you're dealing with things that are date sensitive, models are terrible about knowing what date it is today. Sometimes they think that the date is the date of their training. And so it's good to put in the current date. Current date is a variable that gets created automatically for you. It's always available in the system, so you can just provide it current date. And it says provided with a research plan. This is the first draft, interview the user, and you can specify how deep the interview is. You can specify how many questions, you know, up to how many questions. And then that gets stored in a variable called user notes. And then it goes off and it calls a model. It says, here's the plan, here are the user notes. Generate a bunch of search queries. And then it creates a bunch of search queries. We store that in a variable called queries. Then it uses a different kind of block called run workflow. And run workflow lets you run another like sub workflow block. And it runs a workflow called run query. And that workflow we can open up right here. And that workflow, you know, starts and then it generates, it says, here's the query, the array of queries. Here's the plan. generate query permutations, a bunch of other better queries, and store that in a variable called queries. Then it says it uses a run function block, and it searches Google. It picks the results, and then it crawls the results, crawls all those websites and the results. It then calls another sub workflow called extract quote. So it extracts the valid information from it, and then it goes off and returns back to the main flow. And it does that for each query that's been created here, right? And then it takes all of that and it kind of normalizes it, and then it creates a deeper research plan, and then it goes and executes the same kind of a thing with a deeper research plan. And then it goes off and again does a bunch of things. Then it searches Google, runs another workflow to search Google images to get back a bunch of images. It then, if you chose to create a podcast, creates it. And the output of this is incredible long reads. So it generated this image. It created this like little one paragraph. It created top 10 takeaways. This is a 38-minute read. There's a podcast that it created this like table of contents that's interactive. And here are citations for where this data was taken from. None of this data comes from the model. It pulls out key points, here are images that it found that it's using. It highlights, things. If there's numeric data, it creates visualizations. It created this visualization. By the way, you'll also notice that they've got like a color theme. So these are like blues. And so like things are blues here. The visualizations are blues. And by the way, if you scroll to the very, 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 very bottom of this, you get all of the sources. You get what it found and it's using out of what source, what it found and it's using out of what source. And so again, if a human was tasked with doing that kind of an analysis, how long would it take the human to do that? Well, those humans are called consultants. They spend a lot of time and a lot of money doing that. But now you can do it with just by making a prompt and creating a thing that explains to like what you want it to do. And that's it. And by the way, you don't have to rebuild that agent. You just make a copy of it and change a couple of blocks and publish it again. Now you've got like if you wanted to build a deep researcher, but that only looks at Reddit, well, that's trivially easy. You change one block and say, only look at Reddit links. That's it. That's all you'd say. And publish it. Now you got a Reddit researcher. Holy crap. You want another one? You can make an X research. You want another one? And so this ability to leverage things that have been built and chain these things together. And periodically people ask me, well, like, what can't you automate? And if it is something that a human can do with, again, general information work over the computer, like marketing, sales, HR, finance, whatever, anything we do where we log into some system and we put some things in our brain and we enrich them and we transform them and we put them in another SaaS, which is what we do as knowledge work, all of that stuff can be automated. Now, you might not want everything automated because you want to be able to supervise things. There are some things that you still want to do manual because you love doing them. Great, automate all the things you don't love doing. And that'll give you infinitely more time to be able to do the things you do love doing, and you will be even better at doing that. Okay. Okay, I'll stop here for more questions. Is this making sense? Okay, and again, I think the point that I made earlier is really important. Every last one of you can master this, can learn to do this, and be proficient at it. There are no real special skill sets required to do that. If you've learned to use a computer, you've learned to use Google Docs and search the web and whatever, you can build these agents. Luis?
Yeah, most of the questions in the chat were answered by the MindStudio team. They're pretty specific questions. There were a couple that just came in, as you said, are there any questions? So I'm just going to read those out loud and see if you can answer. Antoinette asks, Did you use your MindStudio agents to create all of your MindStudio documentation as well when you were building the product and the company?
Great question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, so we use MindStudio agents extensively. In fact, let me share my screen again. Some of the things I've shown you are themselves MindStudio agents. I didn't make that clear. So if we go back to, let's close this, let's close that. And let's just build a new agent here quickly. Can you see my screen, Yamila? Cool. Okay. You remember we said generate text, and I said open it up in full screen and say generate? That's how I generated Una Slimeco stuff and other things. You remember the financial analyst? Well, this thing itself is just a MindStudio agent. It was built with MindStudio, and it was integrated back into the platform as a helper. And so that exists here. We also didn't talk about, MindStudio is a no-code platform, but we do support code. So you can build custom functions, they're called, using JavaScript or Python. And again, we've got these runtime environments here. Again, you don't have to know what JavaScript is or what Python is. You don't have to know anything about code, but you can build custom code modules that you need. How? By saying generate function and saying, I'm going to give you this as an input and you provide me that as an output. And then say generate, and it's going to write code for you. And this too is just a MindStudio agent that we've integrated back into the platform. Also, so far, we've been adding these blocks manually here. But again, this is the default that we get here, right? You can add blocks manually, and that's how we want you to do it. We want you to learn to do this and be proficient at it, and you can master this again in just hours. But once you've mastered it, there's a little button over here called Generate Agent, and you can click that. And this too, as you can see, is just a MindStudio AI agent. I just open it up in a new tab in full screen. And this MindStudio agent allows you to just type in to describe the agent you want to build. And this agent will build that agent for you. So you don't have to put any blocks on the screen. It knows how to build MindStudio agents. And you tell it what agent you want it to build. And it builds you the agent, puts it on the screen. You can then modify it. You can publish it. And you're ready to go. Okay. So yeah, so one, obviously, we use AI agents extensively. Documentation is indeed one of the places that we use them, kind of use them throughout, but they're also integrated back into the platform. There's many other places where the things that you're experiencing in the platform are actually AI agents that were built with the platform and now are features in the platform. You know, it's quite like the movie Inception. It's quite recursive. Make sense?
Yeah. I saw somebody had their hand raised. Did you have a question? I didn't catch who, but I did see that there was a hand raised.
I think it was
Maybe
John.
not.
John, was it you?
It was. I did put it in the chat.
Okay.
No, I just built a website and I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking at the home page and I'm saying, okay, would I be able to use this to analyze the page about the layout to maximize the effect of the home page, maximize the effect of the website? I'm just getting the website completed and I want to get maximum effect for when I advertise it. Does that make sense?
Totally. Easy. Yeah, we haven't, let me share my screen here. We haven't, again, there's so many blocks. We've touched on 1%. Okay, so like, but now, again, you guys know, again, that pattern that we built, start with a browser extension, add one generate text block, give it page content, give it a command. Just with that, you can build countless really powerful agents. It'll transform your life just with that. But there are many other blocks. One of those blocks is scrape URL. Okay, and so we can just open this up and we can find scrape URL. And scrape URL means connect to the web and go to this URL or comma delimited multiple URLs. You can put a bunch of URLs, just comma delimited. And then it will go and it will connect to those URLs, in this case, your homepage, and grab all the data from it. And then put it in a variable. And then you can then use that variable to call a model. And you can get that model to analyze your web page and give you a bunch of, nitpicks and better keywords for SEO, like countless things. These models are extraordinary because they've learned from all the content on the internet and beyond. They've learned what it means to SEO optimize things or write copy or whatever. And so like you can just hand it this little, thing, and it will analyze it for you and provide you back the revisions.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
So,
look, guys, it's every single day still, every single day, we, meaning the team at MindStudio, blow our own minds of like,
what's
wow,
possible?
like, yeah, like what is this? What is happening here? Yeah, it's amazing. It's all, it's about creativity. And again, and you can get lost in it too. So I want to caution you. You're like, oh, could I build this? Could I build that? And the answer is, yeah, you could build all those things. But the first thing I suggest you do is, again, maybe watch some more YouTube tutorials after this, or come to one of our boot camps or whatever, and then stop, and then step back and watch what it is you spend your days doing, and kind of audit it. And it will be clear to you quickly that most of the things you do can either be augmented with a little application or a little button or a little automation, or completely automated. Again, like I need to always pay attention to what's happening with my competitors. No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't do that. And just take a day and just build all those agents. And then you will feel freedom. And you'll get your mental energy back. And then you can start saying, oh, well, now maybe I could do this, I could do that. And then you go wild with that. But before you go down that path, solve your own problems, get healthy in your own use of information technology. Okay. And then please, as you're doing this, as you're learning, as you're having these aha moments, share that. Join our Slack community. Join our Slack community and tell people there. Post these things to LinkedIn or wherever it is you post things, share it with people. Okay. This is valuable. I want to take a quick detour and share another thing with you that we've learned that I think is extraordinarily important in the world that we're all living in today. I'm 56 years old, and I started writing code in 1984, and I've built 3 venture-backed companies. In the middle, I worked at Google for 4 years. I was CTO of MySpace Music, so I've kind of had this like diverse career. And so I've met lots of amazing, capable people. And today I find a bunch of those capable people who I know are superstars struggling to get a new job. That's never existed before. They've never struggled to get any job. Their resume is insane, but yet they're struggling to get a job. The world has changed dramatically. That's what we've seen, hundreds of thousands of layoffs now from like giant companies that were just growing. And many, many people now report struggling to find the job. Okay. I know why. Okay. And the reason for that is that companies have realized that they don't want a marketing person with 20 years of marketing experience. They realize that their company has to operate in a different way. And so what they want is a marketing person that does marketing automation, not does marketing manually. Because doing marketing manually is not going to lead to success anymore. Because marketing should be mostly automated. Sales development should be mostly automated. HR, finance, all those things should be mostly automated. And so the people that want to get a job doing things the old way, 20 years of marketing experience, those people aren't even getting interviews, or if they're getting interviews, they're not getting offers. But as soon as they change how they approach, how they tell their story about who they are, they get interviews and they get job offers. And we actually have done, like I did one of these Zooms with a couple of people. I think Lewis is here, and also this woman Pau. There's many of them now that have reported not being able to get an interview for months. And then as soon as they started posting on LinkedIn, their agents, how they're building these agents and how they're doing things, or in this one case, Pau. Again, let me quickly tell you a story about her. I think 20 something. She has an amazing resume. She used to work at Google. She used to work at Meta. She just got an MBA. She worked in a number of venture capital funds. And for 6 months, Pau was trying to get a job as a venture capitalist. Her resume is amazing. She's brilliant. You know, talk to her. It's like, it's amazing. How are you not getting an offer? Nothing, crickets. She was keeping track of it. 147 in 6 months. 0, not one offer. She came to our 2-day boot camp. And then 2 days later, she was already in an interview process with a VC fund. And she made 2 AI agents the night before her next interview. And in the interview said, oh, I made a couple of agents that, you know, I'm going to use in the fund, and demonstrated them. Offer. Don't be the person saying, I've got all this experience. Be the person that's saying, I've got all this experience, and I am fascinated by, I'm a practitioner of, I'm a master of AI automation of my job function. There is no shortage of companies that want that. I propose to you, every single company wants that. That's the world we're moving. So the jobs are in AI-driven automation of put in your job function. Do that. And the place to be seen is LinkedIn. YouTube obviously is another one. And show off your skills. Build things and then show off your skills. Let me show you. Lewis, who was another person that I interviewed on this Zoom. And by the way, we 2 weeks ago hired Lewis out of our community. And so Lewis now works at MindStudio, is now a team member. So he learned to build MindStudio things. He became successful. He got a bunch of jobs. He was actually struggling to get a job. He was a technical writer. Like, he's in his 50s. He's trying to get a job as a technical writer, nothing. He learned to build AI agents. He got a bunch of gigs, and then we poached him from those gigs because, why? Because he's awesome. Oops. Here's Lewis. Oops. Man. I'm glad I'm going to start eating today. Really getting fuzzy. Okay, so that's Lewis. Again, he now works at MindStudio. And if you look at his posts, Lewis has been for months now showing off, making little videos about building simple agents, you know, and that has resulted in an onslaught of job opportunities. And in this case, we were fortunate to be able to snag him and have him work with us. Okay, that's available to every last one of you. There are countless jobs out there. You just got to be telling the right story. And the right story is, I'm an automation expert. That's the story. There's a severe shortage of those, and every company needs it. So take advantage of this, you know.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, awesome, folks. Well, again, thanks so much for spending the time here with us. If you want more things, again, go to mindstudio.ai, go to our Learn section. If you want to join a boot camp, you can find those awesome. There's another 2-day boot camp coming up starting in November 3rd and 4th. There's a 30-day boot camp coming up a couple of weeks later. And so if you really want to immerse yourself in this, then, you know, you can really go to it. But by the way, you don't have to come to these boot camps. You can learn all of this on your own. Vast majority of people learned it on their own. Lewis learned it on his own. Now he teaches boot camps, but he learned it on his own. Okay. All right, guys, great to see you. Have an awesome weekend. I'm excited about later on today getting less loopy and slowly getting some food into me.